Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
CONCACAF Nations League. It is over. Look, I'm going to just start this off with simple as this. I don't care if you don't view the Nations League as a respectable tournament, whether it's the CONCACAF version, whether it's the UEFA version. It is a tournament. It is something to win. There's something at stake here. So, with that being said, I hope teams take this seriously. That's all I'm going to say. That's my TED Talk for that brief point. This is a tournament that nonetheless, whether you like it or not, is a thing. And you need to either suck it up or enjoy this tournament, because it is another opportunity to have competitive matches. Is another opportunity to win some silverware out of it. So that's all I have to say. Now, the semifinal recaps. So, Panama beat USA 1-0. USA had 67% of the possession. USA also outshot Panama 12-3, had 5 shots on target to Panama's 1 shot on target, obviously led to the goal, which was from Waterman, who ended up scoring the winner in stoppage time and near the end of the game, which had the all-time moment where he ran up to Thierry Henry and gave him a hug and told him how that's his idol. Creating a very cool, wholesome moment of this is why you love the game kind of stuff. And before people are starting to say, like, oh, USA should have beat this Panama team, they probably should have, but they didn't at the end of the day. And you're going to hear my rant about the U.S. men's national team, because I actually recorded that before this one, because obviously I'm not. Anyways, you'll hear my rant. But you can say all the things you want, but at the end of the day, Panama came in with the right strategy on how to defend against this U.S. men's national team attack that, frankly, was just very underwhelming. While they did have moments, yes, there was a opportunity for Josh Sargent, hit the post, hit the sidebar, which take that for what you want. And then obviously you also had another goal that would have been a really good goal for Josh Sargent, but unfortunately was offside by Timothy Weah. But at all the end, excuses nonetheless, Panama came with the right strategy. They defended very well, and when they had their opportunity to exploit a U.S. screw-up, they pounced on it and got the winner. You can say whatever you want about Matt Turner not being in a good position to even remotely make the stop. This goes back to the whole thing. I mean, this tournament needs to be taken seriously, and this was the sum of it all. You have the U.S. that clearly did not give a flying fuck. Sorry, Kelsey, I'm dropping an F-bomb today. You have USA giving not a flying fuck about this tournament, versus a team like Panama, who definitely much cared about this tournament and took it seriously. You can say all those things like, oh, the injuries and blah, blah, blah. But once again, if we're talking about on paper, the U.S. was very much the better team on paper. I know that everyone's tired of hearing this is the most talented roster that the U.S. has ever had. And it is true. This is the most individually talented roster the U.S. has had in a long time. But they're not a better team. I will gladly put the 2014 U.S. men's national team over this team. I will gladly see the likes of Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore and a young John Brooks and all those things. I'll put Kyle Beckerman. That 2014 team would beat the brakes off of this USA team, because they put in effort. They cared about the competitions. That's a team that cared about playing in CONCACAF. If this CONCACAF Nations League thing was a thing, they would give a crap about playing in that tournament. Regardless of how they felt, it is still something that needs to be played for, and an opportunity to showcase what the U.S. can do. And yeah, if you're one of those people that loves pouncing on the U.S. men's national team supporters, this is the time to make fun of everybody, point and laugh at the USA because they did not take this tournament seriously, for that you're going to be made fun of. You're going to have memes made of you because you couldn't beat a team like Panama. Now on the flip side, Panama has gotten better over the years, has gotten better and better to the point where they're now in the conversation as one of the better, probably I would say the best team from Central America. Like, it's no longer the days of Costa Rica. It is now Panama. There was a time in CONCACAF when it was USA. I'll actually put a proper ranking. Mexico, USA, and Costa Rica. Those were the three top teams in CONCACAF. You now have Canada. Flip over to now. Now you have Canada. I will put Canada right now. And actually, no. Right now, actually, in hindsight, Mexico, Canada, USA. Actually, you might honestly, might even put Panama over USA and USA now. Those are the four teams right now in CONCACAF. I wouldn't argue with anybody else. Maybe you can argue with me, but right now, Panama has proven to be better. They have proven that they can put up a good fight. And I mean, if you want to think about that Copa America, Canada and Panama were the ones that better represented CONCACAF than Mexico and USA did. So, say what you want to say about Panama. Yes, on paper, maybe they shouldn't be beating the USA. Yes, at the end of the day, they don't have the same infrastructure as the US does. Yes, all those things. But they came in and they beat the US. They didn't beat them through any BS. They beat them outright. So, say what you want. I'm as someone that has ties to Central America, I'm really proud of this Panama team. I would love it to be El Salvador, but I'm really proud of this Panama team because once again, they have gotten better over the years, and now they are definitely in the conversation as one of the better teams in CONCACAF. So, I mean, saying we should beat this team, like, we can't say that anymore. You can't be saying we should be beating Panama because now this is the third time in a competitive setting that Panama has gotten the better of the U.S. So there is no conversation anymore. Panama is in this conversation now for CONCACAF. Point blank. And maybe I'm a little biased because I have Central American ties, but I'm also American, and I'm going to be critical about this U.S. team because once again, they didn't care. They didn't care enough to put in effort and finish this team off because they had ample opportunities to put Panama out of reach, and they just couldn't finish it. And that's why Panama moves on to the final. Simply put as that. And then in the other game, Mexico beat Canada 2-0. Look, I heard it from everybody. I have a lot of friends that are Mexican. I obviously grew up in Texas, so I have a lot of Mexican friends. And they did not like this roster. They did not like the roster that Mexico presented. To be fair, though, Mexico has been very much overwhelming in recent years. It goes all the way back to a lot of conversations that they've had about the Mexican national team. But I will tell you one thing about Mexico. They will be damned to look bad in the CONCACAF competition. Because, say what you want, man. In Gold Cup, even with the B teams, Mexico plays with pride. They're still they are not going to be beaten by a CONCACAF nation. Very rarely that they will. And look, say what you want about Canada. Yes, they are gotten better. Yes, they are in the conversation as one of the better nations in CONCACAF now. No more the days of them being the underdog. They are no longer the underdog in any CONCACAF conversation anymore. But Mexico is going to once again say, hey, you're still not at our level. You're still not at our level. Mexico is still the top dogs of CONCACAF. They are still the standard of CONCACAF. And they showed that outright. Now, in this game, Mexico beat Canada 2-0. Canada had 58% of the possession. Canada also outshot Mexico 11-8, but Mexico had more shots on target 3-1. The goals came from Raul Jimenez, who scored in the first minute, and then in the 75th minute. Once again, I said it, Canada, if they want to build this narrative that they are now the best team in CONCACAF, they got to start winning some tournaments. This was a competition that they needed to start winning. Mexico being quote unquote down bad. A down bad Mexico handed you beat you handedly. So like that proves it's not that it proves my point to some extent, because like once again, if Canada wants to be very much put in this conversation of why people don't really respect Canada too much as far as in the football and CONCACAF perspective, yes, you have players that are standouts like Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies. We've mentioned that many times before. But if you're not able to get silverware, then you're going to be still viewed as not the top team in CONCACAF. Even winning CONCACAF in World Cup qualifiers, like that was great for y'all. That was a great moment for you guys. But once again, you guys haven't won a gold cup in a long time, and I mean, obviously this tournament's only 4 years old, but you were at a final and you also got pretty beat by the US on that one. So it is what it is, man. But Mexico, once again, in CONCACAF competitions, they're going to be solid. They're going to put it in the back of the net. It also helps that it was in LA, because in LA it is very much dominated by Mexican fans. So that also helps in their favor. So it was basically a home match for Mexico. Honestly, man, if there's a game in the U.S. and it's the Mexican national team and you do it in California or even in the southern part of the U.S., whether it's Arizona or Texas or even Chicago, even though Chicago's not south, but Chicago, these are very strong Mexican markets. If CONCACAF's goal was to give U.S. some sort of home field advantage, they should have probably done it in Columbus, Ohio, somewhere where the football, at least there's more U.S. soccer fans. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tough thing to predict, because at the end of the day, there's no fan base, and I stand by this comment. There is no fan base that travels harder than Mexico. Mexico will go to where Mexico's playing. They will go to wherever they'll make that a home field advantage. We've seen it numerous times in World Cups where the presence of Mexico fans are very much prevalent amongst everybody. So I just want to point that out. That I kind of, at the same time, like, it doesn't matter where you put this tournament in, whether you put it in Canada, whether you put it in Central America, whether it's in South America, Mexico's going to show up. You can put this in Antarctica, Mexico's going to show up, just point blank. That's literally my argument for that. Mexico is going to show up for Mexico. They are a very loyal, a very proud fan base, and that's really really commendable. I love that about Mexico. Yes, I know the stupid chants, but you can't tell me there's a fan base that's more passionate, more just strong, united than the Mexico fan base. But that is true. But yeah, Mexico handles business. Raul Jimenez, like, I'm going to talk about Raul Jimenez in a bit, but yes, Raul Jimenez, man, solid performance for him. All right, and the final, Mexico beats Panama 2-1. And honestly, if you watch this game and you were just like, oh, of course Mexico was going to win, this game was really good. I thought, once again, Panama coming in with the game plan that they were just going to absorb, and hopefully take their opportunities. At one point, they kind of had to start taking some possessions because they needed to make a push, especially after a very dumb mistake. But anyways, Panama had 53% of the possession. Mexico outshot Panama 15-8, and also on shots on target with 5-4. The goals came in the 8th minute mark by Raul Jimenez off of I believe it was a cross or a corner, but I think it was a cross. Raul Jimenez header. And then in the final minutes and before halftime, Coco Carrasquilla puts in a penalty, very costly penalty from I believe it was Johan Vasquez that caused the penalty. But yeah, they say 1-1. It was a very tight game. It felt like it was just gonna come down to just a very, very. It was gonna come down to who messes up, who makes the mistake, and unfortunately, it was Panama that made the mistake. It was a handball by, I believe it was Mosquera. I think it was Mosquera. No. A Panamanian player obviously gets a handball. Cordoba. I think it was Cordoba. Anyways, gets a handball, causes a penalty. Obviously, then Raul Jimenez goes to the spot, takes it, scores his 4th goal of the competition, which that goal has Raul Jimenez now passing Cuauhtemoc Blanco in Mexico's all-time goal scoring list, which was obviously Raul Jimenez was once 4th place. Now he's 3rd in the all-time goal scoring for Mexico. Ahead of him in 2nd place is Borghetti, and in 1st place is Chicharito Hernandez. So I'm gonna take this time to talk about Raul Jimenez because, well, yes, I do. I'm not a fan of Mexico. I'm not. I'm Salvadorian and also I'm American. But Raul Jimenez was one of those players that I just was like, this guy is for real. And so I've praised many Mexican players, so don't think that I don't do this. But I was really like when he made his move to, I believe it was Atletico Madrid. I thought that was a big move for him, and I thought that I was interested to see how all that will transpire for him. Eventually he goes to Premier League, I believe, for Wolves, and yeah, just keeps being a consistent player. I've just been a big fan of his. Unfortunately, he did have a very almost a very scary injury, and you're worried about him. You're like, how is he going to recover? And obviously, in the meantime, Mexico is just struggling to find a 9 after Chicharito. The clear heir apparent was Raul Jimenez, but obviously with that injury, a lot of skepticism came into play, and everyone just finding that next 9 for Mexico. And now, obviously, at that point too, Raul Jimenez is getting up there in age. He's not the young player anymore. Obviously you have the Henry Martin glazing that happened for him. And then obviously then came Santi Jimenez, who, did his thing with Cruz Azul, now is playing, was at Feyenoord, and now playing for AC Milan, being viewed as the heir apparent to be the next Mexico 9, and unfortunately hasn't necessarily lived up to the billing in some sense. Obviously he's still young, but still hasn't lived up to the billing. But Raul Jimenez kind of had this renaissance since moving to Fulham, and you're happy to see that. Whether you don't root for Mexico or not, I think Raul Jimenez, his bounce back is something to be speaking of, because this guy went from not in the conversation to look what he's doing, man. This guy is still much for real. To the point where now Mexico feels like they have their 9, and that's great. And I mean, like I said, passed up Cuauhtemoc Blanco, big name, right? Cuauhtemoc Blanco, and he's not that far away from passing to be the all-time goal scorer for Mexico. Few more call-ups. If he comes up for Gold Cup, it's not outside the possibility. Now, not only just Gold Cup, but then also, next year is the World Cup. They're gonna have some matches in Mexico. Raul Jimenez can very much pass up Chicharito, and I think a lot of people would be excited for that, just to be the cherry on top of what is this amazing comeback for Raul Jimenez. And then on top of that, man, Mexico lift their first Nations League title. Like I said, man, when it comes to the whole thing where I think this crazy thing about this current U.S. generation where they feel like CONCACAF is beneath them. Mexico has never, ever, at least in my opinion, ever had any of their players feel that way, where they're too good for this tournament. Yes, Mexico has had the B team for Gold Cup on occasion, but that's usually only if there's another competition going on that same season, or there's something else going on that same year. More often than not, man, Mexico takes every competition very much seriously. That's why they're the leading the ones with the most trophies and Gold Cups. That's why they're a few more years of Nations League. We don't know who ends up becoming the title, the one with the most trophy lifts. And why everyone has such faith in Mexico, why everyone believes Mexico is capable of doing big things, because they always, one, compete well in CONCACAF, because obviously that if you don't compete in CONCACAF, you can't make it to the World Cup. And then once again, they have this ability of punching above their weight. Once again, CONCACAF isn't viewed as a strong football confederation. It's definitely down in the bottom part. Obviously it's a UEFA than CONMEBOL, And then the bottom part, it's up for debate. Maybe some people prefer African nations over CONCACAF, or even Asian countries over CONCACAF, and respectively so, because there's only like three countries. There are four countries that are even worth a note. Versus, Africa has Senegal, Morocco, Nigeria, and then Asia, Japan, Australia. Now people forget that Australia is technically in part of the Asian Confederation, but like Mexico takes CONCACAF seriously because they know they need to beat this in order to move on to it. So, but once again, they do things right, right? They have players that play abroad, but they also have built their league and built their players where you do have players from Liga MX coming in and also punching above their weight and representing Mexico, because there's a pride in playing for Mexico. Like, mind you, this was considered not a good call up. A lot of people complained about this call up. I've heard a lot of people complain. I'm not making things up when I'm saying this. People were complaining about this call up. And look what they did. Like, despite, and I think that's the same thing for the B team notion. Whenever Mexico does the B team, they still compete. They still go far and either win the trophy or at least make it to the final. Because there is a pride in being a Mexican player, and they play with that pride, and that's why they're lifting the trophy, despite all the drama that's been going on with Mexico. They're able to come in, put in work, and they get the result. That's something the U.S. needs to pay attention to. That's all I'm saying. So congratulations, Mexico, for winning your first Nations League title. I'm sure not the last one either. So, like I said, man, as long as Mexico takes things seriously, man, they are going to be a force to reckon with. Who is that guy?